Happy Canada Day. My favorite Canadian moment took place more than 75 years ago. It didn't even take place on Canadian soil. It took place on the beaches of Normandy, France. And for my favorite Canadian moment, I'm choosing D-Day and the storming of Juno Beach. To me, that's one of Canada's greatest military achievements, one of our most important days, a day in which the world relied on the bravery and strength of Canadian soldiers, and a day in which Canada came through and did what was needed and did the job. And many men lost their lives that day, but many men also fought back against the forces of evil and secured peace for the world. And to me, that day shows what it really means to be a Canadian. It shows the bravery of our Canadian soldiers. It shows the strength of our Canadian soldiers and the resolve of our soldiers to come through when it mattered the most. Also, for me, that day is important because my great-grandfather was there as a photographer embedded with the military on that day, and he was able to take one of the most important photographs of the war, a historic photograph that I believe symbolizes what it means to be a Canadian and what it meant on that day for those men to lay it on the line for everyone's freedom. We have so much to be thankful for. We have one of the greatest countries in the world that so many men fought and died for. Never let anyone tell you that you can't be happy to be a Canadian, you can't celebrate this wonderful country.
One of my favorite moments in Canadian history actually predates Canada, at least predates Confederation. I want to go back to 1793 in the province of Upper Canada, where Lieutenant Governor John Simcoe responded to a campaign by a free black veteran by the name of Peter Martin. A campaign that would have a significant ripple effect not just in Canada or the British colonies, but across the British Empire. And that was the move towards ending slavery. You see, what had happened was Peter Martin wanted there to be change. He had fled to Upper Canada from the United States. Lieutenant Governor Simcoe was aware of this. He was open to this and introduced an act in 1793 called the Act to Prevent the Further Introduction of Slaves and to Limit the Term of Contract for Servitude within this province. The bill prohibited the importation of slaves. Now, many would say, rightfully so, it didn't go far enough. But historians have said it went about as far as it could at the time, while still having meaningful results and still having compliance. It ensured that slavery died with that generation in Upper Canada. And this radiated outwards until the British Empire banned slavery in 1835 around the British world. This is a tremendous move towards personal freedom that emanated from Upper Canada, in the land we now call Ontario, in the Dominion of Canada. Many examples throughout history of Canadians standing up for freedom, and I remember them and honor them on this Dominion Day.
One of my favorite moments in Canadian history has to be the rejection of Quebec separatism in both the 1980 and 1995 referendums. From its history, culture, music, and language, Quebec is an important contributor to Canada's national identity. The French language is also something that differentiates us from some of our allies, including the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia. I am grateful that Quebec is part of our Confederation in today's times, as it stands out in its rejection of American woke culture, which is being imported into our country. I remember when a professor at my university was subject to brutal treatment by leftist students because she used a word that was politically incorrect in one of her lectures. It was Quebecers that came to her defense, and despite its government having imposed one of the most oppressive COVID restriction regimes anywhere in the world, Quebecers stood strong in defense of their individual liberties and freedoms, something that I saw with my own eyes when I was covering the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. Quite frankly, there are a lot of things that would not be possible without the presence of Quebec in our Confederation, and hence I think it's great that the majority of Quebecers rejected division and chose to remain a part of Canada. I am proud to be both a Quebecer and a Canadian, especially on this day where we celebrate our great country.
Well, this is going to date me, but I'm old enough to remember Expo 67, the huge World's Fair in Montreal that marked Canada's 100th birthday. I was a little girl then. My mom, dad, brother, and myself climbed into his Olds 88 and drove all the way to Montreal to enjoy the futuristic look at the world and some 60 pavilions for around the globe. It was a true testament to Canada's unity back in 1967. And I think of that now in 2022. where our country is marked by divisiveness and polarization. And I sure hope that one of these days we all come together and celebrate what is really a beautiful country from sea to shining sea.
Hello everyone, happy Canada Day. Canada is a country that is truly worth celebrating. One of my favorite moments as a Canadian was attending the 2019 Toronto Raptors Championship Parade. At the end of the day, Canadians are able to put their differences aside and put their support behind the sports team, and we're able to unify behind sport. Since the Toronto Raptors are the only Canadian basketball team, it was extra special when they were able to bring the championship home in 2019, and millions of Canadians flooded the streets of downtown Toronto to throw their support not just behind the basketball team, but also behind their country.